name is Axel. I studied aerospace engineering a long time ago. Came to the US for a postdoc, and then created my own software consulting company, and then worked for a bunch of different companies. And then we started playing around with AI in the last year. And this is our second idea, and we just couldn't resist to play around with AI. And so let me first now introduce you the problem that we're addressing. We hear about using AI all the time to generate code. But as a developer, that's only one task among many that a developer has to do. Before you write code, usually some code already exists. It could be some legacy code. It could be a large code base. It could even be just your own code that you wrote a few weeks ago, but you already forgot like the little details that it did. So before writing anything new, you often have to just see, okay, what exists? How am I going to add my new code into the existing code? And that first step to understand the existing code, I would like to know from you if you use already some kind of AI tools for that. You probably, oh yes, you raised your hand. Please go ahead, yeah. Okay, so you use ChatGPT to create quick mockups. Okay, but let's say you don't want to first write some code. You just want to understand the existing code. So you could use ChatGPT to paste in the code inside it to get a summary. That would be one way. But if a code is large, you'll quickly reach also the limit of the context window of a language model. You'll reach some limits. And documentation, obviously, is something very useful when you want to understand the code. But it's never perfect. I don't know if you've ever seen a project where documentation was great. But I guess we all go through this onboarding phase at some point or another when we join a new project. And that onboarding phase can take several weeks. And then even during the project, we still have to then spend time understanding what exists, what have others done. Once you've written your code, well, at some point you need to help the other developers understand what you did, or maybe also help your manager understand what you did. So you do need to do some kind of documentation. And that's also a task that isn't right now assisted with AI, as far as I know. There's obviously some things that I'm going to show where AI can help, but I'll try to explain where I think there's a gap. So the typical artifacts that we use to help developers understand what the code does are comments. So we add comments or annotations to functions, classes, blocks of code, and they can be AI generated. And they give, at a very specific level, an understanding of what that code does. But it doesn't give you that high-level understanding. It only gives you, at some local points, okay, this is what this specific code does, but I don't get the big picture. If you zoom out, one common visual documentation is UML, when common, not anymore, I think, but that's one way to describe mainly the architecture. And for most apps, these UML diagrams won't explain you well what the code actually does. You'll maybe see a lot of class names, you'll see the relationships, but what do the methods actually do? What does the code actually do? That won't be described in these diagrams, in an easy way, at least. So we have a gap. If we try to position right now what documentation artifacts we have these very good textual comments, but they provide a very low level, very local perspective on aspects of the code. And at the high level, we only have these diagrams that actually provide, I would say, a bad explanation of what the code does. We don't have anything that can really connect the two, the high level and the low level, and easily allow us to zoom in and out in a similar way as we use Google Maps. When you use Google Maps, you can zoom in and see, everything about a city. You can zoom out and see everything about a country or the world. So this is what we're trying to do. With AI now, we can auto-generate a new kind of documentation that can connect these two different perspectives, the high-level perspective and the low-level perspective. And I'll give you a demonstration right away. Let me quickly here show you our app. It's in the alpha version, so it still has some bugs, but you can already try it out for free. And we're seeing here at a map that was generated. First, let me show for what it was generated. It was generated for this piece of code that has approximately 600 lines of code. It's embedded C. It's code for an embedded system in C. So you obviously have code that is sometimes super easy to understand. You sometimes have code that's just a bit harder to understand. Anything that's closer to the hardware is by definition going to be probably a bit harder to understand. We see in this code that there are very few comments. This was written by a student, and it's for running a pacemaker. I myself wrote in C++ a long time ago, but I'm really not an expert in C, or I wouldn't understand anything of what's written here. And I've uploaded this code, and it's a very simple process. I just select here a file, I upload, drag and drop the file inside and click on the Generate Map button, or I can select among these examples. And we're just going to look here at a map. And so the first thing is that you get that high-level perspective, meaning you see the features that the code actually implements. And all these features are described in multiple different layers. So you see the feature decomposition, and everything is AI generated. So I know that the main summary of this piece of code is that it monitors and adjusts the heart pacing, sorry. And it will handle the pacemaker sensing and pacing. And then I can start to zoom in. And as you can see, this kind of new documentation is super easy to understand. This is not just for developers, but also for non-engineers, people who want to know what the code actually does. If I'm a product manager and I maybe want to have a better understanding of where we are at in the project, the truth is actually in the code. It's not in your task management system. It's not in your requirements. The truth is in the code. So the best way to talk about the project is to see what is in the code. And so here I just zoomed in, and we can continue to zoom in, and the most specific features will be connected to the code so that you can actually then, if you want, double check and make sure that this does make sense. Let me quickly open here. Normally, here we go. If I click then on this rightmost node in the map, it shows me a code function or a code snippet, and I can check where it is in the original source code file, and I get a summary of what it does. So this is a way to double check that this map, these features actually make sense, and you get this automatic traceability from the high-level features to the more specific features down to the code. So this is basically our demo. Right now, it works for an individual file. We want to make it work for an entire code base. So you can, for example, point to your GitHub repo, and you can already export this map. You can share it also. There's obviously going to be a higher price if you want to run it on multiple files. The nice thing also about this is that you can regenerate or re-update these maps automatically through the CI/CD pipeline. So right now I'm showing you how the map was generated with one click, but this could be something that you just generate automatically. So that's basically it. I'll just show you my last slide. I really invite you to try it out. So it's at product-map.ai. You can try it out for free. If you want to be an early adopter, it would be fantastic if you join the Discord server, provide feedback, and tell us what works, what doesn't, what sucks. It's totally fine. We just want to know, what makes sense. And you can obviously contact me anytime. That's it.
Thank you, Axel. This, yeah, especially like a distributed team, which is kind of prevalent these days. I think this is great. We have some time for questions. First question right there.
Hi, this is really cool. A question, assuming that, so let's say you have an interface and you have some class that inherits that interface. There is a method that, let's call the method print blah, blah, blah. And the class that implements that interface implements it, but not quite correctly. Will this be able to put into account that semantic mismatch, right? Because documentation is good, but a lot of the times you document wrong stuff a lot. Like it does this, but it's not really doing what it's doing. I don't know if you understand my question.
So it's going to focus more on the implementation of the method and ignore, I think, all these interfaces, all these constructs to organize the code. It's really going to focus on understanding what does the code actually do.
I see.
Yeah. It's going to use the information, like if there are already comments in the code, whatever, it can obviously, the AI can use it to get a better understanding of what's going on. It's additional contextual information, but the focus is really just understanding, is there a feature or not, and how does it fit into the big picture? Yeah.
Okay, awesome. No, this so far, really good.
Thank you, thanks. There's somebody here in the front.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh, that's okay.
Test, okay.
You're next.
So really nice presentation, Axel. It's so cool. So I was wondering, like, what kind of use cases inspired this? Like, do you think about this for developers that are joining a team? Or for example, I was even thinking about this, like, would you use it to like debug if you like see missing dependencies, or is it for like maybe like marketing to understand what you're building? Like, what are the use cases?
Okay, so it's not for debugging because there are many other tools, also some with AI assistants that create much better, more technical diagrams of all these complicated dependencies in the code. I think the strength of AI is that it really understands the code well. And so we think, we can take advantage of that to not do the same old stuff, but create something completely new. And the use case would be, so we don't know yet if it's going to be more useful for people who want to understand code or for people who just want to have this software documentation generated and they don't have to create it themselves, or people who just want to have something so that they can better communicate about it with other developers, other managers. We don't know yet. Like, I have a feeling it's something in the middle. We don't know which use case is the most important right now. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. Good luck.
Thanks. Oh, okay. Thanks. All right.
Great demo. Two quick questions. Can the code do the opposite? Like, if you have the map already, can it generate the stub code for you? I mean, you probably get that question a lot. And the other quick question I have is, what languages, like, does it work on Swift and like mobile languages as well?
So it understands any language that is publicly available on the web, because the AI model understands these languages. Yes, I have a co-founder who is already dreaming of, doing this round trip of, let's just dump the requirements and it's gonna generate code. From that, we generate the map, and then we can see the difference and see where there is maybe some misalignment. But I think that's for the future. For now, we're just focused on the reverse engineering, going from code to, yeah, exactly.
No problem.
Yeah, so seeing your presentation, I thought of a few things like, does it have the capability to go back and comment the code with the nice comments that it's generating for the map? And the other question is there any kind of way to print out some of that stuff from, in some type of format where it'd be, useful?
Yeah, we have a PDF export right now of the map. And so the map that I showed, can be, you can drag it, you can zoom in and out. In that PDF document, we show everything in a simple list, in a simple tree form. Then we have already heard the feedback that developers would like to annotate the map and add additional information to these nodes. For example, code sometimes contains, or in some projects, feature flags are very often used. And they would like to say, that these 3 different options, only one of them has to be selected. Like additional information could be overlaid on top of the map. That's one feedback that we got. We haven't implemented this yet. Going from the map to code, we would have to think more about that one. Yeah, if you have ideas, let me know.
Yeah. My next question is, thanks for picking up this problem. And the question is about how you are handling the problem of hallucination and security in this.
So hallucination isn't really a problem because until now we haven't noticed this. One problem that can exist is that not all the lines of code were actually mapped to a specific feature. We've noticed this in some cases where the AI model just returned us maybe 10 features, but we were expecting 20. And we've noticed that it's extremely sensitive. So I think there are strategies on our side to make sure that every line of code gets mapped to at least one specific feature. That's a way to quality check, to double check, okay, the map is complete. It's not just showing us half of the truth, it's showing us everything. Yeah.
Very cool idea. Thank you very much. My question is about how does this scale, or if you have any ideas how this will scale for a large code basis, or something like companies who have hundreds of repositories or thousands in some cases. Will this kind of UML based approach will scale, or do you have any ideas on that?
So it will definitely require more user interface aspects, more features, because we can't dump everything into one feature map, as I've shown you. And we would have to add more. So we would want to keep this idea that you can zoom in and zoom out. But the first view for a large code base might not be directly a map. It might be, back end, front end, deployment, and then you double click on that box, and then you see maybe again a few groups, like some tiles. And once you click on one tile, then we would notice, okay, these bunch of files belong together. They could be suitable for a single map. We know that this is a big request to make this work for a code base. It's going to be more expensive also. But we want to make sure first that it provides value for a single file. I know that the value isn't so big, but it's for us easier to just test this and get ideas on how to improve this before we ramp it up, for multiple files, like thousands of files, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very good talk. I have this tool up. Can't wait to try it out. So I was curious what sort of benchmarks you use to compare ProductMap with other LLMs out there.
So when you say the comparison between our solution and a LLM, so the LLM has a limited context window. So you can only, copy paste a certain amount of lines of code, a certain amount of tokens into that prompt. So we obviously, when we get a very large file, we'll have to truncate the code in a way that, is meaningful, so that we don't cut off the code in the middle of a try-catch block, or we don't cut it off in the middle of a function or a class. So we try to do our best to do the code truncation so that the AI model doesn't lose any useful information. So I wouldn't say these, you can't compare the tools. And an LLM returns your textual response most of the time. If it's graphical, it's not, doesn't look so nice. So, and we give you that interactive map back. Yeah.
All right. Any over here?
Great presentation. I had a question related to if a single GitHub repository has like multiple SDKs or something, or if the project is complex enough that there's like a C++ layer that's using Swig to call the higher level Android Kotlin thing. It's like a complex project which is using multiple languages. How does this project supports that, or like how does that look?
There shouldn't be an issue. As I said, the AI, the language models understand all the programming languages that are on the public web, that are in GitHub. So all the languages you mentioned are known to the language model. And so there shouldn't be an issue there. Yeah.
I have a question. When writing the code, is it possible to show the map in real time, especially for the leads and the managers to see how the code is progressing? Any feedback can come immediately.
So it's not in real time.
Possible.
It does take a few minutes normally. It can even take longer for very large files. So it's not something that is in real time, no. But if you do push a major commit to an important branch, that could trigger the map generation, and then you'll have, for a large code base, it might take a few hours until you have that map. But if you're doing this for a branch that doesn't get updated, every 5 minutes, it should be okay, I think.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
Oh, hello. I was curious, how do you handle the higher level abstractions with like context? Because that context is going to be too big to put into one LLM query. So how do you like handle like an entire like multiple files or a whole code base, for example?
Well, as I mentioned, we do need to truncate the code. So we get some code that's too big to send to the language model. So we need to cut it off into smaller chunks. And then each chunk gets analyzed by the language model. Does that address your question?
What can developers do? Oh, let me put it this way. What attributes in a file contributes to better experience in the maps that get generated? Is it better code, better doc strings, combination of both? Have you guys explored?
We don't know, but the users are the most happy when they upload super messy code and they see a nice map. And then they're like, oh, fantastic. So I have a feeling that the messiest code can still be understood by the AI. And so until now, we have not noticed any kind of variance in terms of the input. Yeah, based on the input.
Yeah, love the interest. Let's take like maybe 3 more questions.
Okay.
And then Axel, you're going to be around after to answer questions as well, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take 3 more questions.
So thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the core designing of this AI system. Like, did you use, did you design and train the neural network from scratch, or did you use a LLM, like the API of the GPT, or if you fine-tuned GPT or like LLMs of the
No fine tuning at all. No, no. We believe that LLMs are going to get better over time. So I think it would be a waste of our time to try to fine tune it. We have already tried out different LLMs, but we've noticed similar results. So it's, I would say, yeah, I think could at some point offer the option to the user to choose his language model that he wants to use in the background. Yeah, no fine tuning. We couldn't do anything if we had to fine tune this. It would be, yeah, it would take too long, too expensive. And the LLMs, they just understand code so well already. So for now, we don't see the need. Yeah.
So you just use the LLMs
Correct.
directly? Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know you had your hand up earlier.
No, yeah, thanks. So do you find there are any particular programming languages that translate well to your product maps? Is it like strongly typed languages versus weakly typed languages or things like that?
Until now, we haven't noticed a difference.
Okay. And do you incorporate any like, so when it comes to like compile time or anything like that, do you think you could incorporate like abstract syntax trees or something like that to help build your maps or?
So
are you just using the source code? No, like.
No. We are looking at the abstract syntax tree to improve the truncation.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for the presentation. This product seems like it would be really useful for open source projects, but they may not be paying customers. So I'm curious as to like if you have plans to make it accessible.
Yeah, well, I forgot to show you. We have yesterday our first GitHub user who updated his README, and at the top of his README, he added a link to his map that he was generated and was free for him. We want to make it free for, yeah, GitHub open source projects, because then we can get more feedback, more users, and I think, you know, yeah, we want to support them as much as we can, absolutely.
Great. Yeah, thank you for an awesome demo. And yeah, again, Axel's going to be around. So after we have a nice little space, and then have a questions and connect and do all the fun things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. Now we're going to change a little bit. And then in the meantime, yeah, so we have Ananya coming up, and she's going to now talk us about the Azure AI and all the things you can do, and how Azure AI can make your life easier. And while we are setting up, make sure that yeah, hydrate yourself, because sometimes it gets a little hot in here. So hydrate yourself.
Hi. Is it working? Can you hear me?
A little bit higher.
Can you hear me? Say yes. Okay.
Yep,
All right.
we can hear you.
Coffee here?
Sorry.
Do you have coffee here?
Configure.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah. I just wanted something. I have a very bad throat, but yeah, that's okay.
Hot water.
Hot
Glass
water?
Hot
Oh,
water.
no, I don't think they'll have hot water, so let it be. It's okay. I think few people out are out. Should I wait for some time?
I think we're ready.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ananya, and today's topic is how do we do generative AI operations, or how do we streamline generative AI operations? So while we are building a product, like let's say a custom copilot, how do we take a product from prototyping to production using one of our Azure products, which is called Azure AI Foundry? So this was initially called Azure AI Studio, but we have recently rebranded it and renamed it as Azure AI Foundry. So to introduce myself, my name is Ananya, and I'm a data and AI cloud solution architect at Microsoft. Of course, I speak on events like this. I'm, Women in Cloud advisor, Women in Data Science advisor, advisor to a couple of startups as well, and a career mentor. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy to chat more. Okay, so talking about the product here, so Azure AI gives us some of the best-in-class foundation models. I mean, access to some of the best-in-class foundation models. We have access to around 1,600 plus foundation models, starting from everything that we have from Meta to OpenAI to, of course, our proprietary Microsoft 5.3 small language models. Along with that, we have a lot of pre-trained turnkey solutions, which are our Azure AI services, like speech services, vision services, other cognitive services that we already had as a part of our platform. We also have the Azure machine learning platform. This is a full lifecycle tool which helps you in creating and designing and managing all the AI models, any of your classical ML projects, any of your predictive analytics projects. That's where we would be using Azure machine learning platform for. And anything that we do with Azure AI, before building any product, we do not start the conversation before talking about responsible AI. And our responsible AI toolkit, our content safety toolkits are also integrated as a part of our Azure AI platform. And the platform that brings it all together is the Azure AI Studio or the Azure AI Foundry. So you can build, deploy, and also build, develop, and also deploy solutions which are on your own data, so custom copilots from the same platform. So that's what we'll be exploring today. Okay, so of course, right now, as you all know, English is the new programming language, and prompt engineering is really a job. Hold on, going a little faster. One second, I'll go ahead and again reshare my screen. Okay, so talking about prompt engineering, so this is all about how you give context to these models, right? So you can choose a model of your choice, like it could be one of the Azure OpenAI models, like a GPT-4 model, GPT, 3.2 model, or whatever 3.5 model, or whatever model you want to use, like let's say the O1 model, or even the Llama models, or the Claude models, or any of the models from Azure, which is the Microsoft small language family, the 5.3 models. So you have all of those models available, and you can design inputs from this model. You can give context to that model. You can do few shot prompting and, give more context to these models as well. So now talking about the main parts of prompt engineering. So first we call it as system messages, right? So system messages, when you're defining a system message, you can give a particular task, a particular persona to these, models. Then you can set the tone, like if you want it to be more professional or more casual or more fun, and you can define the safety guardrails of it. Like for example, if you're doing a, let's say, talk to your data, which is in a SQL database, right? So you want to, make sure that you have some safety guardrails around it, like, no statements should be deleted, like you will not execute any DML statements and things like that. So we also have prompt injection and jailbreaks mitigation, which is part of our content safety, and it is also embedded within the platform. You will also give the additional context to ground the data to your to ground the responses to your data. So if you want to upload, let's say, a file like a document or a PDF or anything else in any other format, so that you want your responses to be grounded to that data and not used to its general knowledge of what it's being trained on. That's what you can do as well. And you can also store conversation history. So next time when you see the problem, so one of the common architectures that we do is for some of the commonly and frequently asked questions, we save those responses in a unstructured DB, like let's say a Cosmos DB, right? Because you don't want and that is also a very cost-efficient solution. So when a model sees that response, or when you're building a custom Copilot, if the question has been asked previously, it goes and fetches the answers from the Cosmos DB instead of going and hitting the model and burning tokens out there. So that's another common pattern that's being used. Some parameters that are used to control the hallucination, as I heard, was one of the questions in here. So to make sure that the model sticks to its responses, sticks to the facts, and is well grounded, we have a parameter called temperature. So if you want this model to stick to the facts, you set it to 0. If you want these models to be more creative, like let's say you're using it for marketing use cases, right? So you would want it to be more creative, to be but not stick to the facts at all. So that's when you'll be setting the temperature to 1. Again, other parameters like top P, and for user questions is basically what the questions that you're asking the model. So you can have some couple of examples, which is called few shot prompting, your questions, your instructions, and any clues that you want to give the model as well. And finally, when you're building the system, what you're getting at the end is your final output. So a few tips on prompt engineering. So avoid assumptions. These models are pre-trained, but then don't think that these models already assume few things. Break down the responses. We say like chain of thought prompting, right? And so the more clear instructions you give, and the more chain of thought prompting you can do, the better examples you would give. Also try to give some examples, which is what is few shot learning, like telling the model few ways, few examples of what you are expecting out of the model. So that's again one thing that we can do in Azure AI Foundry or in Azure AI Studio. We have something called the playground. That is where you can see, like if this is the question that I'm asking with this, system message, with this data, to setting the temperature to 0 or setting the temperature to 0.5, and with top fee set to, let's say, 50 or whatever, what responses am I getting? Am I satisfied with that? And is this a model that I really want to use for my purposes, right? Like model selection and, model benchmarking is a prominent part of it. And to help you write prompts as well, we have something called the prompt catalog. So that's where if you're writing prompts for the first time, or if you're writing prompt for a particular use case that you have not written before, so you can go to the prompt catalog, see some example prompts, and even use those prompts as is. I will be going to the studio shortly, so that we see all these things live in action. These are just slides. So bear with me for some time while I just walk through the concepts. So another thing is, of course, you can do prompt, you can add your context, you can add your, set the parameters. But if you don't add your data, your responses won't be grounded to just your organization's data, right? So you can add your data to your platform. And again, we have heard so many questions last year on, like if I'm using my data to fine tune these, or if I'm using my data to add context, will my data be used for training these models? No, like neither Azure nor Microsoft nor OpenAI or any other cloud platforms will use your data to train their own models. Your data remains your data, and it remains within your tenant with your customer managed keys or your Microsoft managed keys as well. So all the data that you would want to bring in, if you want to even bring in data from other cloud solution providers, for example, right? Because again, we have a product called Fabric, which integrates well with our Azure AI Studio. So wherever your data is, you can bring in your data source, and you can make sure that the custom applications you are building is well grounded to just your data. And we will talk about evaluations a little later, like how do you make sure that the responses that I'm getting is coherent, is grounded, right? Or is relevant to the question that I'm asking, like how do I benchmark the responses of different models? So that's about grounding the data and your customizations. RAG is, of course, the most common pattern used. And when Axel said that he did not use fine tuning for his purposes, I was actually very glad to hear that, because that's one of the common questions that we hear. Should we do RAG or should we do, fine tuning? There are also other things in the market right now, which is called CAG and other things like CAG, context, augmentation generation and all of it. But RAG is the most commonly used methodology, and we always ask our customers to do that, because more often than not, most of the 99% of the use cases are being solved with just RAG, and you don't need to fine tune your data. A couple of reasons why not fine tuning, because firstly, it is a very expensive and memory intensive and compute intensive task, so you might want to just avoid it. But there are some very niche use cases where we suggest fine tuning, where, like, for example, if your data set is like super unique, or if your industry is super unique, so you need to know that the model understands your language. And again, we can make the model understand your language by just uploading a business glossary, or things like that as well. But there are certain cases where you need fine tuning, but RAG is the most recommended approach. So the way RAG works is retrieval augmented generation. So you ask a question, and then your question is being converted into embedding, and that's where vector search and all of these searches comes in place. So previously, the world was more towards semantic searching, and now generally in Azure AI Foundry, for most of the use cases, we do a combination of hybrid search, which is a combination of keyword search plus semantic search plus vector search. So your question is being converted into a vector embedding, and then the search is being done, and then you see what is your top 5 results. So we had one parameter in the previous slide, which is the top 5. So you can see, like, what are my top 5 results for my matching embedding. And once that similarity search is done, that's when the model outputs you the data. And again, that also comes in a form of an embedding, and that's being translated into your answer. So that's how the entire RAG pattern works. Retrieval techniques, again, vectorization and all of these techniques are already embedding within Azure AI Studio, so you don't need to do anything on your own. The platform will take care of it. So different stages of or different steps of retrieval. First is chunking, document chunking, as Axel was also talking about. So for the first step is when you upload a very huge document, or when you have a very large data set, the first step is chunking, right? You basically chunk those huge data set into small parts. Next, you vectorize each of those parts, and then you rank those, and then finally you create a index on top of it, and also an indexer to point to that particular index. So that's about vector search in Azure AI Search. Why do we do a vector search? So that our search results are of more better quality. The re-ranking is of is better. Automatic indexing, because all of this is taken care in the within Azure AI Studio itself. We have 2 types of vector DBs as well. Like, if you want to store your vectors in a Cosmos DB or in Redis cache, you can do that. If you want to use a MongoDB vcode to store your vector embeddings, that's fine as well. So any vector DB that you want to store your vector embeddings in, we have integration with that. Something that we always talk about in all the data that you're bringing to this platform, we are not using the data to train any of the models, or none of our partners are using the data to train their models. So your data is protected by customer managed keys, Microsoft managed keys, and every other security that applies to any other Azure products. Now, so why the concept of generative AI ops, right? And what are the steps in generative AI ops? Like, when you are testing an AI model, okay, fine, you're asking it a question, it is giving you a response, but how grounded are those responses, right? Or how relevant are these responses? So that's where testing and tuning your AI model comes in picture, right? So you would want to test your responses for if it is incorrect, or if it is irrelevant, or there is anything abusive in that, right? And we have content safety, so anything abusive or anything harmful won't be passed through the model, it will be blocked. So, so securing your data and securing your model is all part of the platform there. Now, talking about evaluation. So there are two types of evaluations. And again, evaluation is a continuous process, right? Once you get your output, how do you evaluate your outputs? So there could be two ways of evaluation. One is manual evaluation, right? You get an output and then there's a human sitting in the loop who is manually evaluating what is the quality of my outputs. Like, is my outputs like, is it grounded? Is it relevant? Is it actually giving me the right answer that I'm looking for? Another way of doing it is automated AI assistant evaluations. So we have some predefined metrics, as I said, coherence, similarity, groundedness, and 4 or 5 other metrics. So we are using the we are using a larger model to evaluate the output of a smaller model, and we are checking those against some metrics for quality, performance, if there is any risk, if there is any safety concerns around it. So that's again also part of the platform. There's a tool for it which is called the prompt flow. So you can build your entire queries. You can build a workflow to make sure that your model responses are well evaluated, and you don't have to do manual evaluations. Like, manual evaluations are great, but that's of course not a scalable way. These are the 4 common metrics against which we evaluate model responses. First is groundedness, is how grounded your model responses are. Like, is it really taking it from the input source? And in our case, whenever we are, curating a response, we're also always giving the citations for it so that you can just click on it and you can see which part of the document or which document did it, formulate its response from. So that's one of the metrics. Next, we have relevance. Relevance means measures the extent to which the model's generated responses are pertinent and directly related to the questions. Like, is it really giving me the answer that I'm looking for? Is it really giving me the answer of the question that I'm asking for? Coherence, again, how smoothly and how, like, is it answering me in a more conversational way, right? Is it answering me in a more human-like language? So that's my coherence metrics. And then again, fluency, it checks for, syntactic structures and appropriate vocabulary usage. So these are the most common metrics against which we evaluate the performance and quality of the responses that we get. So model discovery is taken care of. If you want to customize your models, like you want to either fine tune your model, you want to do some prompt engineering, you want to do some RAG techniques, that is embedded within the platform. And again, continuous monitoring, because it is not a one-time process. And then if you want to reiterate the entire process, that is also taken care of in the platform. So these are some of the resources that you can take a look at. And now I'm gonna go to the platform itself and give you a tour of that. Okay. So this is what Azure AI Foundry looks like. So if I'm going to the overview tab in here, so you can see so again, if you want to embed it in your application, all you would need is my endpoint and the various keys that I have in there. So this can very well be embedded within any application. So it is showing me all the models that I already have deployed in my subscription in specific resources. Like, I have a East US2 resource, and I also have a Sweden Central resource. So I can get the endpoint directly from here and embed it in any application. Like, if I want to call these models from any other application, I can definitely do that. So that's one of the things. I can see what my connection string is, what my location is, if I want to, like, integrate a speech service on it, and if I want to integrate vision services on it. This is a one-stop shop where I will have everything. Now, talking about LLM ops or generative AI ops, the first step is defining and exploring the model. The first step is, which model should I use for my use case, and which model will be the right model to use for my use case, right? So for that, we go to the model catalog. So as I was saying, we have 1,800 plus models available in the platform. So, and for example, if you're new, right, and you don't know which model to use for which purpose. So let's say you have a use case which is around text generation. So you have to select what your inference task is, and based on your task, it will give you what are the recommended models. So it looks like for text generation, like, these models are the ones that gives better results. For a different use case, let's say, for example, a use case where I need embeddings, right? Or for text classification use cases, or for text-to-text generation use cases, right? So these are the more recommended models for that. Now, for our example, let's say I want to do a token class, okay, or a question answering use case, right? So for that, these are my recommended models. If I also want to filter per the industry, let's say I'm in retail and consumer goods industry, right? So what are the common models that's being used, for that particular industry? So I'm selecting all the, classes. So it looks like this particular model is more towards the retail industry. So now let's go and deploy a particular model. Okay, so we also have models that can help us with fine-tuning tasks. For example, if I want to do a summarization task, and if I want if I want a fine-tuning model for a summarization task, I can do that. Or even if I want to search for a particular model, let's say I want to search for the, let's say the GPT-4 model in this example, or all the GPT models. Let's say we'll select all, and all the inference tasks. Select. So it will show me all the GPT models. So let's say I want to work with the GPT-4o model, or the GPT-4o real-time preview model. So I'll go ahead and select this model. And from here itself, I can deploy the model. So I'll get an option of deploying the model. So I'm not doing it in this case because I already have a GPT-4 real-time model deployed in this particular region. Now, if I have to compare between two models, like let's say GPT-4o will also do a question answering task, and a GPT-4 model will also do a question answering task, right? But which model do I choose? So we have something called the model benchmarks. So this is basically for comparing two models. So right now I have these 5 models already deployed in my subscription. So per that, I can see in x-axis, I want to keep, let's say, latency, and in y-axis, I want to keep the cost. So I can see which model performs the best. So it looks like the GPT-4o model, the latency score is 0.92 and the cost score is 7.50. So it has a high score as well, but then the latency is also lower. So that is where I need to take a call about, what is important for me. Like, am I okay with higher cost but lower latency, or I absolutely want lower latency and I'm willing to pay that higher cost. Next, again, for quality, of course, is accuracy one of the metrics that I'm really worried about, right? So in y-axis, I can keep accuracy, and I can keep latency in my x-axis, and I can compare. Now, let's say I want to compare against accuracy versus, let's say, cost. So different, like whatever is important for your particular use case. So first you select the model, then you compare the model for your particular use case, how you would want to choose the model. So let's say you have decided, like, now GPT-4o is your ideal model. That would be the ideal model for your use case, or at least that's what you want to start playing around with. So next we come to what is called the playground. Now this is where all the models are available to us. So I was trying to do a little bit of prompt engineering in here, and I'll show you a few things in here. So the task here is that you're a web copywriter for the Contoso Outdoor Company e-commerce website, and your goal is to generate the website copy for the homepage. It is saying that you should be friendly, professional, some safety guidelines around that you should always stick to the subject of the company it offers, all of that. And one of the questions that I'm asking is suggest a tagline for the website landing page. And it is, giving me this particular one. Few things to keep in mind in here, like for example, if I'm going to the settings here. So if I want it, instead of typing, if I want to talk to it about it, like instead of writing, like suggest a tagline for the website landing page, if I want to talk that to it, right? So that's where I can, from the platform itself, I can enable speech to text in here, and I can choose my desired voice and the frequency of the voice, and I can just check on it. Like right now, I don't have a speech, service deployed in here, and hence I don't have the save button, but that's how it works. So all the vision services, all the speech services, or any other services that you want to incorporate with your AI application, this is your one-stop destination for that. You can incorporate everything. Now, let's say you have built your application and now you want to evaluate those, right? Or let's say you want to import a particular prompty file. You want to import a JSON file, for example. So you can do that. There is something called prompt examples that I was talking about, which is, for example, you want to build a marketing assistant, marketing writing assistant use case, right? So instead of you writing the entire prompt on your own, so you can just use one of the predefined prompts. So you see that this prompt has now changed. So it is saying that you're a marketing writing assistant, you come up with creative ideas, all of that. And then you can keep asking your questions. Next, what you do is you evaluate your model. So you can, as I said, you can either do manual evaluations or you can do automated evaluations. So you can click on AI assisted evaluations. And if you also want, risk and like some amount of content safety to be embedded with it, you can go ahead and create it from here. And that will help you in getting or evaluating these model responses across those 5 metrics that I talked about, like coherence, similarity, groundedness, all of those. So after you create a evaluation flow, because this will take some time, so I'll just go to the next tab in here. What you can also do is you can add your own data in this particular playground itself. So let's say I'm removing this data source that I already have. So I can either choose a predefined index. If I already have a Azure AI search index, I want to take that, I can do that. If I want to add a data source, like bring in an external data and I want to use that to answer those questions, to ground my model, to ground my copilot, I can do that. So you can either bring in data from Azure AI Foundry, which is already there in Foundry. If you have a blob storage where you have large chunks of data, you want to bring in unstructured data from there, you can do that. Or you can directly upload files from here as well. So like, for example, in my case, let's say I want to upload some product information to this playground here itself. So I can go select all the files, next, and I can select a Azure AI search service. I can give a name of the vector index. Also, I can choose which type of compute I want, and you can see the cost of that. Like for this one, I don't need a very hefty compute, so I can just choose a 4-core, 32 GB. That is enough for me. So, and then it will create a vector index for me. And when I said vector index, it will do the 4 steps like chunking and then building any custom skill on top of it, and finally building the index on top of it, and an indexer as well to propagate through that indexes. So that's how easy it is. Like, it will do all the ingestion by itself. It will do chunking, build skills, build an indexer all on its own. And now this system becomes my own system, because this will now be able to answer questions on the product items that I have uploaded, and this will be grounded to my data. Now, once it is grounded to my data, I will see if my evaluation flow is done, and you can see that my evaluation flow here is completed. Or it is at least created, not completed. So now in here, I can upload a data set of my own. Now, if I want to compare the results, I want to upload a test data set so that I can, get an evaluation of how grounded my responses are. I can upload a data set, and then I can run a AI assisted evaluation, automated evaluation on top of it. And finally, it will give me scores across those 4 or 5 metrics. Again, you can also build your custom metrics if you want the scores across, some other parameters that you want, you can do that. And for in here, like, I don't have a very hefty Copilot build, but it will give me the average scores across these four parameters. And you can select what matrices you want. If you want across all the matrices, you'll have those. If you just want, let's say, groundedness, that's your top metrics, and you want to see how grounded these are. So like right now, for the first flow that I created, my coherence score was 1, my fluency is 3, my groundedness is 1, because clearly I had not done anything, right? I had not even added the data by now. So that's how you can see how grounded your data, your systems are, and you can take care of evaluations by that. And of course, evaluation is a iterative process. So you want to make sure that you again define your prompts, you upload your data, and make sure your systems are grounded. Now, when you're satisfied with it, you have done your evaluations, you know that this is the application that you absolutely take it to at least it's an MVP position, or you want to at least run a pilot on top of it. You can deploy it from here again. So you can just deploy it as a web app. You can deploy it as a co-pilot in our Copilot Studio. That's again another tool, but then they have integrations. If you want, that this will be a part of my Teams application, so that someone, let's say if it is a internal chat use case or internal chatbot use cases for my employees, right? So that's where I want it to be available as a part of my Teams channel, so I can download a zip file for that. But for most cases, what we see is we can create a new web application, like let's say Contoso products, because we had uploaded products data in here. You can select whatever subscription you want to deploy this in. Whatever, okay, I cannot do a hyphen in here. Your resource group of your choice. I know East US, okay, yeah, this is fine. And your pricing plan, I think for now basic is fine. If you want to enable chat history in the web application, you would do that. Contoso product already exists, great. So I'll just do this. And okay, I would need to enable Enter ID authentication, which I don't have, but anyway, if you had that, so all you would need to, you can either create a new application from here, just click on the deploy button and you would be able to do that. Or if there is an existing application that you want to, update, generally when you build a first pass of the application and then you do some changes on top of it and then you want to redeploy it, that's when you'll be using that. And then you have your own custom Copilot available at a deployed endpoint. So not everyone has to come and use the playground, right? You want this to be available for your employees to chat or do whatever they want, or find specific HR information, find specific information about your products. So you'll make the web application link available for them. So that's it. That's about the product. And how we do generative AI operations, like starting from an idea to take a product all the way to production. This was very limited because I just had 30 minutes to finish it all. But yeah, happy to take more questions and happy to go deep into one particular section if there are questions. Thank you.
All right, that was quite a speed run through a whole Azure. So yeah,
I tried to squeeze in
yeah,
everything.
I love it. That was quite an information overload. But yeah, let's now dive in. Questions, ladies first.
Thank you, Ananya. That was super informative. And I'm already thinking of like so many applications for like my team to use what you just described. So I've kind of two small questions. So one, is it possible to make the data source dynamic, or would like the user have to like input, like let's say it's something that's like weekly refreshed, I'd have to input it myself. My other question is there like a team of like cloud solution architects available to help us deploy this? Like I work internally at Microsoft as well. If I want to use this for my team, like how would we go about getting started?
I'll take the first question first.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, it can be made dynamic, so for example, and that is one of the use cases, right? Because oftentimes our data changes. So you can schedule a batch operation, or, like even if it is a real-time system, all you need to do is rebuild that index, because that is a part of it, So when a new data set comes in, so you have to rebuild that index, which is a little expensive operation, and hence we do not suggest that, you do it quite often. But yes, if your data set changes, and that's what we do with our customers as well, you rebuild the index, and then the new information is also available, to the chat interface. To your second question of if solution architects are available for internal teams, not as much, but you can always, consult with someone. But is a dedicated team available for internal applications? No.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Yeah, good talk. That was a good overview of what's available. I was very curious about the RAG aspect of it. One common problem with RAG is the item that you fetch with high cosine similarity. They all pretty much the same thing. They're like duplicate of each other, and they're not very useful to answer the question. And the one that would have been useful have actually very low cosine score. So, is there some pre-built model that help like re-rank the result from the RAG that before I add it to my context that I can use, or I have to build my own?
No, in this one, the way vector search and vector indexing happens within the Azure AI Studio, your re-ranking is taken care of. As I said, right, document chunking, and then in the custom builds, and there are also something called custom skills, right? Often you would already have like some skills, but then let's say you have a PII data, right? So you'd want to do some custom skilling to make sure that all of those are encrypted, and you have those taken care of, and then you have your re-ranking, and then you can also actually choose your ranking algorithm. If you want to choose a different ranking algorithm, you can do that, and finally it is re-ranked, and then an index is built on top of it. So you do not have a lot of control on what's going in the background, but if you want to bring your own index, like you already have a index which is built, if you, let's say you're a proficient in building indexes, you can bring your own indexes. But this is just a quick way of building an index and doing a hybrid search, like a combination of keyword plus semantic plus vector search. So this does everything for you.
So the basically ranking is like built in already.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So all the 4 steps are taken care of. All you do is like just simple 2 clicks, and then everything is taken care of. But again, if you have a very high performing index, you absolutely want to go for it, you can bring your own index as well.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I'm pretty interested in one specific steps you just mentioned. Is the user upload their resource, and then you do the chunking, and then you do embedding generation, and then you do the vector storing in the vector database, and then searching, right? So my question is in this stage. So based on my previous working experience, after the chunking, there can be a tokenization, right? So basically, my first question is how you do the tokenization to generate the embeddings. The second question is that, also previously we hear one scenario is that, for example, we use one model to generate embedding for a few months, and then later we just trying to find a better, find another model gonna have a better performance, generate the embedding. So my question is that how you gonna merge the embedding, or how you want to, regenerate embedding, because I assume the product is already online, right? So once you do the AN similarity search, how are you gonna handle this embedding mismatch? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
So there are ways. So this platform specifically is more of a low code, no code experience, right? So all of the, embeddings and then chunking and then tokenization is taken care of, but if you want a particular tokenization strategy, right? You can do that on your own, and to, going back to the previous question, and build your index as per that, and use that and bring it to that platform to do rest of the stuff. Like let's say you just want to utilize prompt flow for your evaluations and for your for measurements of different metrics, right? How these things are performing. So that's always possible. And and the similar concept applies for embedding as well. Like, right now, so one of the models that we use very popularly is the ADA 002 model, the ADA 002 text embedding model, because when you're doing a vector search to understand your vectors, you definitely need an embedding model to go on top of it, to do the RAG on top of it. So that's how we would approach that. But again, if you want to do your own embedding, if you want to bring in your own like algorithm or your own tokenization strategies, you can do that as well. Yeah.
Hello. I had a question on how secure is Azure AI Foundry when it comes to government classified data, such as ITAR, EIR, or is there like a GovCloud version of it?
So just like any other products, right? For example, let's say you didn't have AI into this conversation, because all the security and, PII data, PHI data, GDPR compliances came more into discussions after AI and generative AI became so popular. Well, not AI, specifically generative AI since last 2 years, right? But then all of the data is still stored in blob storage. Blob storage has been there since years, and every company does use blob storages because it is, of course, we have all the, HIPAA compliance, GDPRs, and data is always encrypted at rest and in transit. You have your Microsoft managed keys, but you also have your customer managed keys, in which you decide how you want to, keep your keys. So this is the exactly same things applies here as well. So when you upload a data set for fine tuning purposes, or for to give additional context, or to ground your models, that data goes to blob storage. So everything that was applicable so far with any other Microsoft product is applicable here. So it is like completely within your subscription, within your tenant, with all of your keys, and every compliance and like, all the GDPRs, HIPAAs and, PII, PHIs, everything is taken care of. And also we, as I was saying, right, we have something called custom skills. So when we are doing a RAG architecture, let's say if it's a healthcare customer, right? So most of their data is PHI and PII data, right? So we would build a custom skill to identify those data and mask it and encrypt it in a way that the model itself won't know much of it. So all of this is definitely taken care of, and we have like many different ways of addressing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was interested in when you were deploying the model, you had to click deploy. I was wondering, when you deploy, are you provisioning resources? And I saw that you can choose which region to provision it in. So if you are provisioning resources,
yes,
doesn't that make it, what is the difference between that and like an on-demand model from, say, OpenAI itself? And does the benefit of calling, let's say, directly from OpenAI with the different CDNs make it so that deploying with Foundry is less applicable for global products?
So 2 points to that. Firstly, the cost is the same. So let's say you're considering a GPT-4o model from OpenAI versus Azure OpenAI, right? Because within Foundry we have Azure OpenAI models, which is the OpenAI models with the Azure wrapper around it, plus all other models that I was talking about, right? So firstly, the cost is exactly the same. So whatever OpenAI charges, we charge the same. But what you get as a part of this is the security and governance and all other, like it is not just the models that you're getting, right? You're getting access to the speed services, you're getting access to like the storage services, because the data that you're uploading is finally going and staying in a storage service, right? And you need a lot of security in there, because it's your own proprietary organization data. So all of this is taken care of. And to your question of when you are deploying a model or deploying a web application, are those resources being provisioned? Yes. So when you're deploying a model, you are basically making that model available for you in your subscription. Now, but you're not being charged yet unless you use that model. And how are models charged? Per 1,000 tokens per region, right? Like for example, per 1,000 tokens, like a GPT-4o model per 1,000 tokens in East US region. So that's how you are charged. Versus when you are deploying a web application, you are, of course, spinning up web application resources, you're, spinning up deployment source, like everything you would do if you are deploying any typical web application, right? So those resources are being deployed at that time. But you do not incur cost just for deploying a model unless you use the model. You have input, output tokens, and all of that calculations.
Question. We have one more question. There we go.
So this is continuation of your response. I saw that when you were showing here the whole process, you had to choose the basic plan and there were some additional plans. At which point we need to subscribe to those plans?
Yep. So it depends upon your workloads. Like right now, I didn't have a lot of data and I was not concerned about which reason. Like for example, if you are deploying an application at a global level, let's say you have EMEA's customers, you have EMEA users, or you have Asia users, and you also have, let's say, North America users, that's where you would want to move to a higher table. And then again, we have calculations around, if this is the number of users you are expecting, this is the latency that you can afford, right? Let's say you don't want a latency of more than 4 milliseconds. So that's how we choose the different tiers. In my case, this is just for a demo, so I was going with a basic plan, or even free plan would do for my case, because even that would have some bandwidth, some deployment slots. So depending upon your workloads, your number of users, what bandwidth you need, what is your latency, and typically we would also suggest your replications, right? You don't want your resources to be all been in one region. You definitely want a fallback. You want a replication in a different region. So those are conversations for that, and that would make you choose whatever tier is applicable for you. Of course.
Okay, let's take the last question.
I basically wanted to ask if you can pipeline models, and also if there's any way of creating agents that make decisions on what models to use.
Yes, we have something called the Azure AI Agent Service. Of course, agents are the new thing for 2025. It's going to get insanely popular. And yes, we do have Azure AI Agent Service. We have Assistance API. We have function calling, all of that. And there is also a platform that we are right now building for, which will make agent creation very easy, like a typical drag and drop. And then you can create like multi-agent architectures, like no, because of course, single agents won't be sufficient and won't do all the tasks, right? So in an enterprise setting, like if it's a customer service use case, right? So you would need at least 2-3 agents who can do, who are specialized to do 2-3 different tasks, and I can also pass the context from one agent to another and have a memory on top of it. So yes, there's something called Azure AI Agent Service that is being developed, and a version of it is already out and it is in GA. So you can go check it out, and we are seeing more developments on the multi-agent sites. Also, we have something called AutoGen, and AutoGen has been there since like 1.5 years now. So that is that's being commonly used for all the agentic systems and multi-agent systems that we build. Yeah.
All righty. Thank you, Ananya. That was a really thorough talk, so I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And thanks everyone for being here. Actually, one thing I forgot at the beginning of the meetup, we usually give a little bit of a time to do like a community shout out or ask. So if you guys have any projects that you're working on, or if you guys are looking for, hey, you're looking for help, like a developers or so on, or you're looking for opportunities, so on. If you guys are brave, let's or you can take like 15 seconds and talk about like who you are and what you're looking for and what kind of help you can give or you need from the community. So anybody wants to take this advantage, please raise your hand. Nope. Okay, go ahead.
Just do it from here, or face the audience. Yes. Okay. Well, hello everyone. This was super interesting. It was also my first time, and I just moved back to Seattle last week, so glad to be part of this community. Something that I've been wanting to work on more, that kind of started over the summer, is I wanted to know if I can like deploy. Hold on, let me think. Well, there's multiple things that I want to deploy, but basically like speech to text model within like Apple, like iMessage or iMessage for Business. I'm not really sure if that's possible. So right now I'm trying to work on like a prototype through Flutterflow because I don't really want to like code up the whole front end myself. But if anyone can help me with something like that, please let me know. Sorry, what did you say? Oh, within, okay, like basically like how you can like within iMessage you can text like for example T-Mobile support and they'll like respond to you like that, but a chat with yourself where like if you voice noted like you would get like responses back. Yeah.
We're gonna have some time left on the hallway, so definitely approach her or have a deeper conversation or question and answers. Anybody else? There you go.
Thank you. So I want to see, my name is Stan. I'm working on an AI agent for cybersecurity, and I want to see if there is somebody interested to collaborate with me and some other folks to build those automations for cybersecurity, specifically for the SOC team. That's all. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Stan.
I'm actually building a learning management system that's focused more on students rather than how they currently are, where they're kind of more focused on content delivery. If anyone's interested in helping with that, I'm using a lot of accelerated learning techniques built into the system to help people learn faster and achieve more.
And what was your name so that the people can find you?
Booker.
Booker. Classic name. I love it. Let's. Is there any last one to close out? Any volunteer?
Hey, I'm Sumant. I'm from the hedge fund world. So I'm working on like generative encoder decoder models for like day trading and especially the time series data analysis and stuff. If anyone is interested in collaborating, please reach out. So I'm happy to discuss. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, my name is Srivalli, and I'm currently working just for myself at home, and I'm trying some AI/ML projects. Other than Kaggle, does anybody know a platform that can provide us some free data for testing or tuning the models? Hugging Face. So if I need like thousands of records, like 10,000 kind of. Oh, okay. Sorry. Data.gov. Oh, okay. Thank you.
All righty. Going once. All right.
Hey, I'm Robert. I'm a performance engineer. I have a novel technique that can generate cost savings for LLM tokenization, for LLM inference. So if anyone's at a frontier lab, then I'd like to talk to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for making this meetup, lively, very interesting, very informative, and I love the participation. So thank you for the first meetup of the year, and we'll see you next month. Oh, and we're gonna have this place until 8 o'clock. So graciously, so we can go outside and connect and get some more detailed discussions.
Job.